I'll just introduce them very briefly this way. Olly served, I think, 12 years, right, in Board of Selectmen in the town of Kingston. Vinny has served more than 20 years in the state legislature of Massachusetts. But here's what I appreciate about both of them. They both have been in the church for years. Olly serves on the leadership team. Listen, what I appreciate is that when they were in office, they served. And you know it's not easy, because you're always in that situation where the tensions of everything I've taught here. I spent 4 years teaching through this in our church, over and over again, because we needed it in our spirit. So as they share with you, I think we have a mic. Rob, is there a mic that right behind here that they can just share? Okay, good. They don't have to get wired up like this.
They hit that one time, it's on mute.
Okay, good. So I want them to just share their testimonies of what it has been to serve the community, lessons that they've learned, and then we'll just open it up for questions. Who's going first, Vinny? Okay. So welcome, Vinny deMacedo.
Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Paul had asked myself and my brother if we could come up here and share with you a little bit about our public service that we've had the opportunity to do over the years. And so I'll just give you a little sense, because you have no idea who I am or where I come from, but just to give you a sense of what my brother and I were brought up in. We're not born in this country. We come from a little island off the coast of Africa. Cape Verde is a small little country, and that's where we were born. And so I was a baby. I was only 6 months old when I came to America. But my brother, as you can tell, is much older than I am. He was 6, and so he had a better sense of what that was. 7. Okay. 7. See, I told you much older. But we came to this country, and my parents were so grateful that they had the opportunity to come to this great nation and be in America. And so that's what we were brought up in, was this desire to be in America and this appreciation for this great nation. And so that's what we were brought up in. And but we didn't necessarily, we weren't born again or anything like that, but my parents taught us that. And so, long story short is, through the years, my brother ended up getting saved and going to church at the New Testament church that we've been going to. And it just transformed his life, and he wanted to serve. And of course, as you just heard the message that you heard from my pastor, Paul Jaley, you get a sense of what inspired us in regards to two young men who live in a nation that is just so blessed, and we just want to serve. And the way to make a difference is to serve. And so, as I heard that message for years, I started in politics public service, 28 years ago, in 1993, a little steering committee in a community. The community I come from is very large, so they had little steering committees. And so that's what I did. I served on a little steering committee and served side by side with people. And then, as things went, I ended up running, and then we had elected town meeting. And so I ran for town meeting. I just said, well, I can serve in that vein. And that's what I did, and ultimately was encouraged because of the time I spent doing service. I'd be remiss if I didn't make this, this statement. My brother, who was at this time a selectman in another community, had served, and just to give you a little sense of service. Now, he was a selectman in town, an amazing athlete. I was not the amazing athlete, but he was well known in the community because of his athletic abilities, and so he was, well respected, and so he served. But I'll never forget this one time. I was driving through the community that he lives in, and he had this idea of beautification of this area, and he decided that he was going to get people, as Paul was sharing to you, he was going to get people to donate
bricks and lights and just beautify this place where the town hall was. And he was out there. And so he went and got the people to donate the bricks, the concrete, the lights, the everything. And he was out on a Sunday afternoon laying bricks down Sunday afternoon, all by himself. Nobody else was there. And he doesn't know I was going to share this. But it spoke to me about how you serve. It's those little things that nobody knows of. It was an idea that he wanted to beautify his community, and it's probably maybe a quarter of a mile long. But a quarter of a mile is a long way, and a lot of bricks to lay, and getting people and donating the beautiful lighting. But it was the way to serve, and I believe that was his success, that he had 12 years as an elected official in his community. And that was inspirational to me as I did my little service. And ultimately, I had an opportunity to get elected as a state representative in 1998. And frankly, I should have never been elected insofar as, my opponent was a selectman for many years. He was an attorney. He had certainly far more qualifications than I ever did. I was I lived down in the southern part of town, which is kind of way away from the main part of town. I was not a great public speaker. I'm still not a great public speaker. However, I had the opportunity over the last 20-something years to do a lot of public speaking. I just really, that was not my gifting. And yet, the opportunity opened up, and I won my first election by 169 votes. Wasn't a huge vote of confidence. I barely won, but I think that my desire was to just serve the community, to love the community. And the one thing that I've been blessed with is that God's given me an appreciation for people. I just generally enjoy. I look around this room and I see people from every background, and I just think it's beautiful. I just love that. I enjoy people, and God's given me, and He's given this to me. I just like a compassion and a love for people, and I think that that's in fact what has helped me in my political career, because when you're in politics, it's a very divisive world. I think you all know that. I think you've seen that, and that's not my nature. I'm not about divisiveness. I'm about trying to bring people together and love them. And I have a son. My son is 20-something years old, and 21 years old, and it's funny, but that's his heart. He just has it's just natural. It's different than my other two kids, but he just generally sees people and he just weeps for them, those that are lost, and that's a gift that to have that. I just pray that we all have that gift, because there, by the grace of God, go I for what I believe God blessed us with and what I know. And so I share all of that to give you a sense of all that I had the opportunity, and I served 16 years in the Massachusetts House. I served 5 years in the Massachusetts Senate, and it was really way beyond anything that I had the capability of. It wasn't even really a desire that I had. I kind of did it because it gave me an opportunity to serve my community, and I was uncomfortable with it, to be honest with you. I got uncomfortable. It's the titles, and as you know in politics, if you got a certain title, the more important you are. And I just know myself. It's just, if it's for me, I don't have all of those gifts. I served with people that were Harvard grads that served in Washington D.C. and they had all these things, and I'm sitting right next to these people, and I'm just like, I just went to a small little Christian college down in New York. I didn't. Just a small business owner. I have a gas station. Actually, my brother owns the gas station. I had run the business for him. So that's what my background was. I didn't really have much to offer, but God made a way. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. And it's just you don't need to be special. If God makes a way, He makes a way. And so I feel like I'm a perfect example of that. You don't have to force it. God opens those doors. not me. It was, and that's from my perspective, how you can make a difference. And one of the scripture verses that was shared, to me that was really powerful and really simple is Micah at 6:8, yeah. And it's to act justly, to love mercy, and to, I'm actually going a little slow just because of the interpretation, and walk humbly before your God. And those are the things that, it's just so simple. I mean, God's not difficult. I mean, our lives, he made it very clear to us. It's just love mercy. I mean, it's just like, there are so many people you see broken and have so many things on, and we look down at them. Wow, I mean, God was so merciful to us. He gave us things that we don't deserve. As I said, we live in the greatest nation, I think, in the world, the opportunities. And yet, somehow, we hear a lot of this, all the things that are bad with this country. I always try to focus on all the good things, how we should be grateful. We talk about, justice. That's really what we should desire. What is just? What is right? As we know in politics, sometimes people don't operate like that. That's not what they want. But if you do that and you act justly in all circumstances, and you love mercy, and ultimately, as Paul was talking about, you walk humbly before your God. And I share that to say that, that's really it. It's like all that we have, if you have any type of giftings, and I always say everybody has giftings. We all have a gift to share and to give. And, that is, and that's what we do. And so that's what I've tried to do, is just, I know that my gifts are God-given. It wasn't because I was, I had, athletic abilities or speaking abilities. I just knew that God gave me a gift of, and it's the weirdest thing, but he put favor in people's hearts towards me. People that don't think anything like I do politically, just do not have any understanding, but they liked me. And I like to think it's because of Christ through me that's what they like. And it's, and so I just share with you, and I'm going to turn it over to my brother, forgive me for going a little bit long. But I got this text, and there's this guy that I've known, and he's a pretty prominent political figure that I've served with, and he sent me a text just the other day, and I'm out of politics now, I'm not anymore, but he shared this text with me, and he said, and I just want to share this with you because I really felt grateful that that's what he took out of our 20-something years of relationship. This guy's not saved. He's somebody who doesn't agree with me politically on most things, but he's become a friend over the years. And I love him. He loves me where I'm at. I love him where he's at. But he said, thought of you when Father Rafferty read John 15:1-8 this morning. It sums you up perfectly. And I'll just... I am the true vine, and this is some guy who's not saved shared this with me, and I say this in humility, but it certainly encouraged me that I hope that's what he saw in me. He says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit he prunes, so it'll bear even more fruit. You are already clean because of the word that I have spoken to you. Remain in me, as I also remain in you. No branches can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned. But if you remain in me, my word remains in you. Ask whatever you wish, and it will be done in you. This is my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourself to be my disciples. for me, I never preached to him in a way that you have to be saved, you have to do this. I just tried to love this guy. And that's how you make a difference. So, at any rate, the older I get, the more emotional I get. It's terrible. I joke about this. It's just, my brother's the same way now too, but it's the funniest. I have 4 grandkids now, and so I just like, the older I get, I become more emotional. But it just really touched me, and it was the funniest thing. I was in church when he sent that to me, and I just thought, and just to give you a little sense of how I do things, this is a guy I know. Every day, every Sunday when I go to church, I'll send him a text just to tell him, praying for you, love your family, we're praying. It's just bless him. And just nothing big, nothing overly spiritual, but just to let him know I care about him. And it's been 20-something years. And that's he's always, does kind of make comments to me. He's like, man, just everything goes right for you. I don't get it. Because, in a lot of ways he knows that I'm not as gifted as he is. This guy's an attorney. He's, a big political figure. He's done really well. But he kind of looks at me, he's like, man, just everything goes right for you. It's like, and he knows that I don't have any great gifts. It's God's grace. I don't know. I mean, I have just been blessed. I have an amazing wife, 3 amazing kids. Business. I had, some opportunities, but it's just so beyond me. I don't deserve any of it. And so anyway, that's just what I have sensed from just a little testimony about the opportunities that I've had, and it really isn't anything profound other than by God's grace, he's given me an opportunity. So with that, I'm now going to introduce you to my older brother, who really encouraged me, and like any younger sibling looking up to their brother, who obviously, as I shared, much taller than I, a greater athlete, certainly a better speaker than I am, not better looking, no, I'm just kidding. But really, I looked up to as someone who just loved the Lord and gave his heart to the Lord and served people behind the scenes where no one knew. For years, I watched, and as your younger brother, we talked probably still twice a day since I was a kid. He just and we still do every single day. And he has been a real inspiration because he's served the community. We talk about politics, but after he left politics, I think he's actually made a greater influence in our community than he did while he was serving. And I think he's going to share a little bit about how he was able to make a difference in our community through service, even when it wasn't in a political realm. It was just in service to our community. It's had an impact. So with that, I want to introduce you to my brother, Olly.
I don't think I have to say anything else. We kind of covered it all, but it's a pleasure. First thing I want to say, there's a real sweet spirit here. When the young lady was playing earlier on the piano, God's here. Anyway, I'm grateful. As Vinny told you, it's been a long time. I don't know. It's been a long time. But we immigrated here a long time ago. I was 7 years old, and I'm going to share this with you by way of why I'm served my community. It was never really that I had this vision of becoming a politician or anything else. All I know is that Vinny just started, and I'm all emotional. Because I have such a grateful heart. Just the fact that I just know the Lord. You have no idea. But so we immigrated here, my parents and I, the 7 kids. We had no money. We came and lived in Dorchester, Massachusetts. We were picked on all the time and spat on. We were called every kind of the name. We couldn't speak any word of English, nothing. And my parents brought us up. I just lived a life. I always wanted people to like me. Because when you come and you're young, you're 7 years old, and you're very, you just want someone to say that you're okay. And of course, that isn't what happened to me. I mean, I wasn't okay. I mean, I cried many tears in my little room in Dorchester because I remember when the 1:45 bell would ring at the Patrick O'Hearn Elementary School, I had to walk home. And I just remember the fear I had in me because I knew that it was not going to be an easy walk home because they picked at me, they kicked me, they used to have all the kids get around. And there's this, I lived kind of in an Irish community, and I have nothing against Irish. The best thing I've ever had in my life is my wife, and she's Irish. But so they would like take turns to try to fight me so they could beat me up. And so it was always a hell inside of my heart to leave school every afternoon to go home. And the catch-22 was I couldn't tell my parents what was going on because if that happened, then my parents would never let me go outside the house. And I wanted the opportunity to go outside the house and still be able to play and meet people and be with kids and so on and so on. So I just had this, I just wanted someone to care about me. So it was really, really hard. And so I grew up that way. Then we moved from Kingston by God's grace and by the fact that my father and mother would get up every single morning, work, go to English school at night to learn English, did everything they could. And in 4.5 years' time, we're able to sock away $3,000 in cash and put a down payment in a house in Kingston, Mass, where I live, because that's all they could afford at the time. But anyway, to make a long story short, I don't know why I'm so emotional this morning. It's the Holy Ghost. Anyway, what happened is that as I grew up, I became an athlete, not because I had these giftings or whatever, except I was the tallest in the family, which makes no sense because most of my brothers and sisters are pretty little. But I was tall, but see, the thing is, God always knows. He knows. He's created you. He knows everything about you. He knows why you have what you have, the height, the talents, the giftings. He knows everything. So with me, He gave me height, so of course I got involved in basketball, and I became pretty good at it. And the only reason I wanted to do it and work so hard at it because I just wanted the kids in my neighborhood to like me. So I just pursued it with everything I had in me because it was the only thing that they could acknowledge that I was okay. And so I did it. And of course, God just used that. But throughout the whole thing, of course, I got into high school, and because of, I played in high school and everything else, there was a family who's used to go to the game, and the daughter, was interested in me, so to speak, whatever. So the mom used to come to the games all the time, and I was, by this time, I'd gotten pretty good at what I did, and I was popular. I played basketball, football, the whole thing, and I began to become pretty conceited in who I was. I mean, I was it, because now, I was kind of pretty much a conceited little jerk, really, to be honest with you. I'll never forget coming home one time when I misspoke out in the classroom, and it was like, I just had to say something, and it was so dumb what I said, and I got ripped by the teacher, and I was so hurt, because when you want attention, but when you get rebuffed for trying to get attention, you're so sensitive, you get so crushed. And I remember coming home, and in my little bedroom in my cell, and I just crying out to God, and I didn't know God. I was an altar boy at the local Catholic church, and I didn't really know the Lord or anything. I just went through the whole process, and I remember saying, God, just please, Lord, help me. And I don't know why I said that. And honest to God, and I was a sophomore in high school at the time, it wasn't really a couple months later that I met this family, and this woman came down to me after the game. The daughter introduced me to her and all this, and I said hi and all this, and she said to me, I'm praying for you. I looked at this lady and said, praying for me? I mean, I don't think I need any prayer. I'm all set. Thank you very much. But anyway, to make a long story short, through the whole process of this, I ended up, they witnessed to me. I went to their home, and I remember the first time I went to the house, there was a sticker on the door, and it said, for me and my household, we shall serve the Lord. I was like, oh my God, these people are wax. And I was dying, this is crazy. So this woman just kind of talked to me and everything. But anyway, so to make a long story short, eventually she comes to a place where one day she was asking me about my relation with the Lord. And I'm like, lady, I'm an altar boy. What do you mean? So it's like, and she was sharing it, and so I could tell she had a Bible next to her all the whole time, and I know the daughter who's like trying to date me and saying, Mom, shut up, But anyway, she just kind of just kept whatever, and it was nothing. And keep in mind, that's why I love the Holy Spirit. Even when you don't see it, He's working. But in my heart, in my prayer, my little room, and at Riverside Drive, saying, God, help me. It's like He heard me. And He brings this people into my life. And so she shared Christ at her kitchen table. And she said to me, Olly, do you know Jesus? And I said, of course I know Jesus. I'm an altar boy. I've been going to church, the whole deal. Da, da, da. She goes, but do you really know Jesus? And I said, yeah, I know Jesus. And she said, but you ever asked Him into your heart? And I said, yeah, He's in my heart. Do you ever, and she said to me, she pressed me, she says, do you remember the moment and the time that you actually asked the Lord into your heart? And of course, then I'm getting scared, and I'm saying, this lady seems pretty godly, and if I lie right now, she's just going to know. And so I'm saying to myself, I can't lie. I said, well, no, I don't really remember the moment. And she says to me, would you like to pray and ask Jesus into your heart? And I looked at her, but I don't know what it was, but I know what it is now. It's the Holy Ghost. And I want to say one thing to you guys. If you ever want to witness for the Lord, understand one thing. You will never bring one person to Christ. Jesus, and only Jesus, and only the Holy Spirit will bring that person to the Lord. Like, I had no idea, and it was really, I don't remember really half the things that the woman said to me, but something was happening inside of me that I couldn't stand it anymore. And then finally she says, Olly, after she went on for about an hour, she says, would you like to accept Christ? And I felt like it was a little classroom, and I raised my hand and I said, yes, I would. And right there at the little kitchen table, I gave my life to the Lord. A broken, conceited, self-centered jerk that had some abilities and talent that I thought that it was all about me. And God saw through that time, brings me 6,000 miles across the ocean to this little place that I might come to a time that someone would share that and I would know Christ. And it totally transformed my life. There's so many things I could share. I only got 20 minutes, so I'm going to go real quick. We met Paul. We started sharing. I couldn't shut up about Jesus. It wasn't because I wanted to tell people. I'd go to the high school, and it just exuded out of me because I just sensed so much of God's presence inside of me that I couldn't really contain the fact that people around me didn't know it. My parents, my family, they thought I was nuts. I was, my father, I remember my father slapping me one time because I came home late from Bible study, and he was so upset that I was, you're Catholic, you can't, and all the things that we went through, but there was such an overwhelming love inside of me for God's people. Like Vinny says, I couldn't help myself, all my friends, and we literally, in a public high school, and I'm saying this not because you're going to go to the public high school here and do the same thing, it's only because God moved in that time. But there literally was revival. We literally had hundreds upon hundreds of kids come to Christ. Our football team, kids on our team, our basketball team, we'd pray, we shared, we had banquets for the teachers that we honored them and just blessed them, all in the name of the Lord. And I had no idea, I didn't know anything. I knew about 2 scriptures at a time, but I knew that something had changed inside of me. And you can't fight when you really have conversion. When there's a real change, there's nothing that anyone can say to you or do to you or convince you because it burns inside of you. That's when God converts you. It's no different. The same thing that God did on the road to Damascus, He's done to each one of us individually at some point in time in our lives. So out of all that, in all the things that happened, and it's like Vinny said, he didn't do any better. I go to college on a scholarship, on a 4-year scholarship, and I wasn't that good. it was the craziest thing. I mean, the team the school, the college, the university I went to, the college I went to was recruiting another guy from Brockton High School, and we were in a tournament, and they come to see this guy, and I happened to have this phenomenal game. And it was crazy, and I had a good athletic career, but they recruited me after. Next thing you know, I have a full 4-year scholarship that I don't even know how I even got. Back then, you didn't try to get scholarships; you just kind of did what you did. And so God did things that I didn't even deserve. But out of all that, I just have such a grateful heart, and because of that, I wanted to serve. And so I look at people, God put a burden in my heart. Listen, if you want Salem to come to Christ, love the people. Love them. Ask God to break you, to give you a burden that you can't even help yourself. I remember, we have my brother-in-law who's in our church, and he's a tremendous singer. Listen, I used to just literally weep in my room for his salvation. He couldn't stand me. He used to laugh at me. We used to have Thanksgiving dinner, and we'd do our little prayer for Thanksgiving dinner, and then he'd snide and look at me and goes, Olly, if you want to do one of your prayers, go right ahead. It was like a joke that I love the Lord. But I would go to my room, and my heart would break, and I can tell you everything inside of me in the flesh. I want to say, well, who do you think you are? But that isn't what happened. God so broke me that I wanted nothing more than that my brother-in-law Bob would come to Christ, that he would know Jesus, that he would know what I know. And I remember just crying to God, crying. Now listen, that wasn't me that was doing that crying. God placed a burden in my heart. I couldn't help it. Pray for God's burden. Pray that God breaks you. Pray that God, as you see people walking down the road, you can't help but to just say, oh God. And God has blessed Vinny and I in so many ways. And yet, we know we didn't do anything. Out of nothing, God has made us to be something. And yet, we still know that it's only because of his hand. Only because he chose to do what he's done. And I know that I have to wrap this up. So when I was in my little town, it wasn't like I was trying to be a politician, I guess, as much as that I loved my town. Because when I came to Kingston, people actually kind of liked me then, It wasn't like it was in Dorchester. So it's like I wanted to serve them, and I served them in any capacity that I could. And of course, knowing the Lord, I wanted to do it because I just wanted to be like Christ. I didn't want to hit people over the head about preaching Jesus. I just wanted to love them and be who I needed to be, and I've always done that. And it's like, if no one sees you, it's like, and you're living the life, God will see it, and God will produce fruit out of that. I'm going to share one thing that we do in Plymouth now that's really magnificent, and I'm actually doing this just for the interpreter, Pedro, before I finish. And so after I got out of politics for a while, and Vinny was doing really well at the State House, somebody invited, there was a parade in Plymouth, Mass, it's Thanksgiving, obviously, that's where it started. So they had this parade, and somebody asked me to volunteer, so I volunteer. Actually, it was my wife's boss who was involved in the volunteer. So this whole thing happens, the parade starts, and it ends up failing after a while. And I just served in the community. I did stuff. I had some abilities. I'm a craftsman. I do things. We build things. So we started doing some floats here and there, whatever. So the thing fails. And the guy calls me and wanted to know if I could do it. Instead, I was like, I don't really want to do it. So I said, I'll go see Paul, whatever. So next thing you know, we're going to take over this parade, which was whatever. But so we have this parade in Plymouth, Mass, that we do for Thanksgiving. And the reason why I do it, I'm going to let you know my heart, is because it was an opportunity for me to tell America's story. Listen, I love this country. My heart breaks every time I hear someone stand up and tell me how bad this nation is. Listen, I come from a place where kids still walk around with no shoes on their feet. Okay? I'm in America. And every time somebody beats America, listen, it's got its issues. And you know why America has its issues? Because of you and I. It's the sin in you and I that make the bad things of America like any other country. But it's has had God's hand and his grace upon it for all these hundreds of years that's kept it and has made it the great nation that it has. It is the principle for which it was founded on, that's made America what it is. And so for me, it was like, man, Paul, because the parade was more like a Mardi Gras type of thing, jumping around and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, nah, like we wanted to tell America's story. So we started to do the Americas through the years and why we're thankful at Thanksgiving. So when you come to our event, in Plymouth, Mass, the weekend before Thanksgiving, you'll see floats that tell the whole story of America, beginning with the Native Americans, all the time in history where America had to take pause and be thankful and grateful for what this nation has done. And we do that. We do. I mean, you gotta come and see it. Just not that I'm trying to promote or anything, but it's USA Thanksgiving. It's pretty easy. Go on site, look and see what God has done. We have this huge event. Hundreds of thousands of people come to this event. Nobody knows Vinny and I in a sense that people know us, but people that come, they don't know us. But we've been doing our thing, building things, telling stories, and it's gotten bigger and better. This year, actually, Channel 5 is going to be televising it live. You're going to watch it live on TV on Channel 5. It's amazing. And the thing of it is, all we're doing is we're telling the story of America, the greatnesses, and we're not ashamed. And we don't beat up anybody with the gospel, whatever, but because in the story of America is the gospel. Trust me, when you see the things that have happened and taken place in America, it's because God's grace, like the song, God's grace. We should be repenting as a nation. Repenting, oh God, you've blessed us so much. It's like Vinny and I, we've been so blessed. Could we now and shake our hands and say, oh God, no. Because we understand from where the blessings flow from and come from. And so it's the same thing. So out of that, we've been serving and doing all these things. But I want to tell you a story. I walked into this church and I looked at the first thing I noticed, and I'm going to close with this. Wow, I love this. I love architecture. I love how things are built. I'm figuring, how in the world is all the weight from the middle here on those two pillars and that pillar and that pillar? I'm looking around. This is fantastic and all that. And it's really great how it's standing, all that. And the Lord spoke to me. And I'm not a prophet by any means or anything else. But I want you to understand for the city of Salem, because for years and years and years, no one ever saw me, Paul, or my brother Vinny. Of course, later on, they did see us. But I'm saying for years, they never saw us. We had a burden to serve God's people. We had a burden to love Him like the Lord. And remember, you can't make yourself love them. You have to pray in your own prayer closet for God to give you the love of Christ that you can't help it. And that's what will happen. You'll break. You'll have your quiet time. And it's not an outward thing. It's a personal thing. And I remember all the times that God, rebuked me and rebuffed me. And I always remember one thing. It's like it's not what you do when everyone sees you. It's what you do when no one sees you and there's no one around. And you're still faithful and you're still willing to hear God's word and God's voice in your life. So I'm looking at all this. I'm saying, wow, how does this stand? This is wonderful. This is beautiful. Look at this. And I love this church. Pastor, this is wonderful here. But you know the thing none of you guys see here in this wonderful church, and yet without it, it wouldn't be standing? It's the foundation in which it lays. Without the foundation, and today I work for Boston Sand and Gravel. I'm in the foundation world. We do concrete. So we do, all the cities in Boston, you see that it's a company I work for. We supply concrete. You see these magnificent buildings, but under the ground, there's incredible strength. And it has to be laid properly. And it has all the, engineering perfectly to take all the weight of it all. And what I want to tell all of you that are sitting here, because you're here because something has drawn you here. Something has said to you, you want to come and hear about how to serve your community, how to be influential in your city. Are you willing to be the foundation that no one ever sees? That someday they may see the magnificent building that laid upon the very lives that no one ever knew about. And if something ever happens in Salem, whether it's now or it's 300 years from now, you would have known that there are some stones and some blocks that you were that no one ever sees, but because of that, there's the glory that now everyone sees, which will be the glory of the Lord eventually, because we all know one thing. Every knee shall bow and every tongue confess that the Lord is the Lord. So remember, be encouraged. Love your city. Love the citizens of your city. Pray for them. Weep for them in the quietness of your places, in your churches, in your hamlets, wherever you are. That God changes and transforms you from the inside out. Be willing to lay yourself like a stone in a foundation that no one sees, that upon that God might build what he builds, on with whom he will build it with, and whom he chooses to build it with. And if you're deciding to be anything and serving your committee, you wait on God. A friend of ours, and I think Ben knows, I think Paul knows him, John Rankin used to always say, I want people to run for office that want nothing to do with running for office. Because if you want the limelight, God can't use you. If you want to be the one that everyone sees, it's even in ministry. If you want to be doing ministry just because you want everyone to recognize you, God can't use you. No man can stand and take the glory of the Lord, because outside of him, you have nothing. Anything that Vinny and I have shared this morning has only been because of God's grace in our lives. And listen, but think about this though. The privilege that he would even think to use us. To think that you guys are living in this time, in this era, in this moment, in this neighborhood, so to speak, in this nation, in this city, God wants to use you. As we lay our lives down as foundation, God will use you. So God bless you, and thank you for inviting my brother and I, and bless you.